Forced to work from home by your employer? Laid off or feeling depressed at home? Do you want to make money working from anywhere? We'll show you how to do it from your couch. It's time for another episode of the Work From Home Show. Coming to you from their homes in Austin, Texas and Tampa, Florida, here are your hosts, Adam and Naresh.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Work From Home Show. I'm Naresh Vissa with Adam Schroeder. Shout out to all our homies, homeboys, homegirls, home trans, all the work from homers out there. Today we have Giles on the show. He is the creator and publisher of ClashDaily.com, co-owner of the Safari Cigar Company, a columnist for townhall.com, pastor at ClashChurch.com. Just a very accomplished man, but his books, they caught my eye. I've read some of them, snippets of them. I've heard him speak on other podcasts. He's the author of the best-selling books, Raising Boys Feminists Will Hate, which for the stay-at-home dads out there like Adam and me, highly, highly recommend this book. We're going to talk a little bit about it, as well as the books Raising Righteous and Rowdy Girls and Pussification, the Effeminization of the American Male. And that's actually a term that I've been using for a while. Maybe I got it from you. Maybe I made it up myself. I don't remember. And that's a term, pussification, because I do think that it's sad to see where not just men, but where the country is going in general. And also his book, 10 Habits of Decidedly Defective People, The Successful Loser's Guide to Life. I love the title of that book, and I love, we'll certainly talk about the attributes and characteristics that make up a loser, because as a business owner myself and as a father, I tend to identify loser qualities and characteristics much more quickly than I was able to when I myself was a loser. Yes, I look back on my life and I used to be a huge loser. And I look back and I'm like, thank God I'm not like that anymore. So without further ado, Giles, welcome to the Work From Home Show.
Naresh, how you doing, big dog?
I'm doing all right, doing excellent. And you are coming to us from Austin, Texas. I see your background. You look like a big hunter. I don't know if that's gym equipment also, but I'm sure you're a gym rat as well. Let's talk a little bit about your book, Pussification, the Effeminization of the American Male. And let's assume that you are speaking to stay-at-home dads out there, because like I mentioned earlier, Adam and I are stay-at-home dads. I don't think I'm a pussy by any means, and I don't think I pussify I only have one son. Adam has 4 sons, so maybe he can take some of what you have to say more to heart. But what is the definition of pussification, and what is your advice to all the dads out there, whether they have boys or girls, or now the transgender is a big deal. So regardless of what the gender of their children are, what's your advice to them?
Yeah, so my official definition of pussification is the act or process of a man being shamed, taught, led, pastored, drugged, or otherwise coerced or cajoled into throwing out his brain, handing over his balls, and formally abandoning the rarefied air of the testosterone leader fog that God and nature hardwired him to dwell in, and instead become a weak, effeminate, mangina-sporting, shriveled-up little pussy. And that's from the Doug Giles 2016 dictionary of Grow the Hell Up, You Pussy. So,
Love it.
So as far as advice goes to keep your kids from being a little pajama boy like Justin Trudeau, I've got 3 basic things, man. I mean, first of all, if you want your son and Adam's sons and the listeners' sons to grow up to be a provider, protector, hunter, and hero, which are the 4 elements that I've been able to define from time immemorial that uniquely cast men as true men, in again the classical sense of the word, I've got three things, man. So right off the bat, number one, pull your kid out of public school because they hate masculinity. And they're not big fans of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence. And I know there's some good teachers out there. My wife taught for 20 years in some of the toughest school districts in South Florida. Be that as it may, public schools, by and large, they're not a big fan of masculinity, and they view that boy's testosterone, his wedding tackle, as toxic. So I would yank them out of there. I wouldn't let anybody, especially organized around the NEA, be anywhere near my kid 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. So point number two, I would also severely limit their input or their intake rather to social media and frickin' whatever's on the television or if they're jonesing on their iPad or their iPhone. I would get them out to where they're farming, where they're hunting, where they're ranching, where they're doing something outdoors instead of getting eye posture looking at their damn phone. And number three, man, if you're a Christian, I would make certain that you put your kid under the tutelage, under the pastor that gives a good John Wayne kind of Clint Eastwood, Steve McQueen type of vibe, instead of these hipster skinny jean dandy pastors that are way too ebullient and and they personify the character that I created in Pussification, Crispin, the young hipster. Because, again, they'll turn him into a dandy. And you want your kid to be a frickin' apocalyptic warlord that's under the governance of God.
Why is it so important to keep the, I guess, gender roles, like those stereotypical ones of men and women, those roles? Why is it so important to keep those the way they have historically been?
To me, that's a simple question. It's the way God created us. He created male and female. And God don't make any mistakes, and all the rest is just politically, correct wokeism blather that they're trying to radically and fundamentally, gut this nation and confuse all of our kids. And like I said, man, and I know, Adam, you probably are aware of this as you live in the Austin area as well. There's public schools. No, we're not talking about high schools. We're talking about for the wee little lads, elementary schools. That as soon as you walk in, there's these big ass trans posters. There's rainbow flags everywhere. Our kids are frickin' smacked in the face with stuff that I don't think, people should really talk about until, I don't know, maybe post-pubescent ages and stuff. But they're trying to sexualize their kids. And I don't know if you guys remember seeing, I think it was a San Francisco gay choir that actually sang a song that we are coming for your children. Now they're like, oh, we were just kidding. It's like bullshit. You are coming for our children. And so anyway, keeping the genders specified, I love the pushback. When all these dudes who now call themselves Tanya or Rhonda, all of a sudden, they're a sucky competitive swimmer when they're really competing with dudes who can really tear up the water. Then all of a sudden, this 6'6" lurch decides he's gonna become Tanya, and he gets a boob job, and he jumps into female athletes. And you know what? The women hate it. Everybody thinks it's crap. The only people who love it is CNN and people who take notes while that tripe is playing. And but all the stuff that the left is pushing, trying to blur gender lines, having Marxism shoved up our tailpipe, condemning truckers who just want to cross the border without having to jump through Trudeau's flipping hoops. Everything that they're doing, opening our southern border, flooding Texas with 4 million people, sex trading, human trafficking, all that stuff. Everything that they're doing in blurring the lines and trying to, force feed us their propaganda. Everything they're doing, it's backfiring. They're their worst enemy. They don't know how to talk to people. They don't know anything about us rubes. poor little rednecks that live in the flyover states. And this has been orchestrated by Soros-funded dipsticks. And I think there's going to be a house cleaning if we can have free and fair elections.
Well, a couple of things. Number one, to better answer Adam's question, for those who may not fully be Christian or believe in God, I think there are some better answers out there, and that's simply if you're a straight man and you have the qualities that you laid out, kind of the pussification qualities, good luck trying to attract a woman. Good luck, or a good woman. Good luck with that, because attraction goes far beyond what's on a resume. You can't just put a resume in someone's face and say, hey, you have to be attracted to me because of this resume that you see in front of you. Attraction goes far deeper. We're talking about science. We're talking about evolution. And now, if you're not into women and you're into something else, okay, well, you might attract that. But there are many, many single straight men who I know, younger, really, not even millennial, but younger, and maybe it's the media, maybe it's social media, and they've been brainwashed by what you just said, by the media, by the parades, by the virtue signaling. And when they don't have the girlfriend, or when they don't get it's not just about getting a woman, but it's also getting a good job, getting promoted. These are all qualities that will help you in your career, that will help you in sales, that will help you succeed in life. And when you don't succeed in various facets of life because you think that you're entitled to something, because of your skin color, because of your age, because of how you look, then these are all qualities of losers. They're going to go through life just being one big loser. So to me, it's not just, God created men and God created women, but it's, do you want to succeed in life? Do you want to succeed in school? Because now we're seeing the cancellation. You talked about public school, and we're seeing math classes, honors math and AP courses being canceled because they're too hard or they're racist. And I just can't believe that now anything that anybody finds offensive or anything that anybody isn't good at, you can find a way for it to be racist or it to be unfair or systemically not in tune with the way society should be. So to me, I think those are all better answers, and I want to hear your thoughts about it and tie it into qualities, your top habits and qualities and attributes of losers.
Yeah, so what's interesting is the dilapidated state that you said that young men are in. I agree with it. One of the upshots of living out in the country and being in a small town in the great, and I mean great, Republic of Texas, is that, unless you go into Austin or Houston or North Dallas, you don't really see those kind of tinkerpots out here in the country. I mean, these kids learn how to provide for themselves pretty early on. And by the way, if you're listening to our podcast here and you don't have a job and you're like 16 years old or maybe 15, I'll tell you what, I'll be even more brutal, 13. If you're not making money, then you're in line to be a Bernie bro. You're in line to be a Joe Biden supporter. You're in line to be a stooge machine who eats government cheese and lives in a van down by the river. Or you could possibly be living with mommy for the rest of your life. I know guys, or I've heard of them, I don't know them because I would never befriend some kind of jackanape like that. I know guys that are living with their parents right now and they're 45 years old. Now, I get it if your parents are debilitated or, they need somebody to take care of them. But some of these circumstances are not, Naresh, and it's just, to me, it's disgusting. Because as a young kid, man, I could not wait to get out of the house. I had my first job at 15. I did paper routes for my brother when I was much younger, and also would do landscaping, mowing lawns and stuff like that, but got my real paycheck job when I was 15. Couldn't wait to get out of the house when I turned 18. And it's just weird now, there they are. They're not providing for themselves. And I tell you what, chicks might think, well, it's, he's just a nice guy and I love getting frappuccinos with him and we like to go shopping and whatever. When the apocalypse goes down here in the United States, when supply chains are cut off, when China attacks the shiitake mushrooms out of America, you're not going to be looking for the soft-spoken hipster male. You're going to be looking for frickin' Mel Gibson type dudes who, like I said, are apocalyptic warlords who know how to provide and know how to protect. I think it's also weird, Naresh, that a lot of these guys don't know how to use weapons. They don't know how to use knives. They don't know how to use guns. They don't know how to use bats. They don't know how to use fist and feet. They don't know how to wrestle. They have no idea what would happen if somebody put them in an arm bar, in an alley. And I made certain that my two daughters, when they were wee little lasses, when we lived in Miami, that they were trained by the Gracie Valenti team, the world's greatest fighters, par excellence, and they're the first two girls in the world to get a Valenti black belt. And so that advice is not just for the boys, it's also for the girls, because you can't count on your daddy being there. You can't count on your stupid little pussy boyfriend to help you. He'll probably run screaming and leave you in a lurch. So you got to know how to rock in a hard place. You got to learn how to throw down. You got to be able to be situationally aware to where you can smell and you can sense and you can see some bullshit going down and evade it. And then if you have to get into an altercation, you've got to know how to break out of it, how to shut your opponent down, and how to kill him if need be. It's just the world we're living in now, especially with Biden. Defund the police. We don't need this. Homeless people living in frickin' swank parks in Austin, all the way to San Francisco to New York City, and it's just crime run amok. And if a guy and a girl does not know how to protect themselves, then they are the most vulnerable to this kind of BS that's going around.
Well, I completely agree with you, and it's a major reason why before my wife and I even got married, we took a concealed carry class. We got our licenses. We paid the fees, and we've taken some classes. Even after that, I go to the shooting range. Look, I come from a culture where guns and violence, not a part of the culture, at least because my parents moved here from another country. Here in America, it's more of a thing, and I find it even more important. When the pandemic hit, I told my wife, I said, things are about to get really bad. You're going to see buildings burning down. You're going to see riots on the streets. And she was looking at me, how is this going to happen? And 2 months later, that's exactly what we saw. We had friends whose stores were burnt to the ground. We couldn't even drive through some of the parts of the city that we live in because of the riots that were going on. And things were actually pretty tame where we are. But I want to go back to a couple of qualities that you said, like living at home. It's great to work from home. Don't get me wrong, we're the work from home show, and you can do very well working from home. And Adam and I both, I think, have done quite well, and that's why we share our secrets and our successes and failures with the audience. But I would say the number one quality of anybody, whether it's a man or a woman, and yes, I do find this gender role even more pathetic for men, but men who live at home with their parents, like you brought up, 30 years old, 35 years old. You said, people in their 40s. I don't know anyone in their 40s who lives at home, but if I did, and if they were living there voluntarily, not because they had some kind of a health problem or mental health problem or something, I just find that really, really pathetic, because I feel like that type of mindset is the type of mindset that's going to hold you back from being your best self, from starting a family, having a family, from getting a job, being promoted at work, from getting laid. I mean, and I know people who are 35 years old who still live at home with their parents, and they say, "Oh, I'm saving so much money." And to me, I don't have any data to back this off, to back this up. But I feel like if they left and spent the 20 grand a year on their living expenses, their groceries, their apartment, or whatever it is, I feel like they'll learn so much more and accomplish more just being independent, that the money that they're spending, the 20 grand that they're spending, is going to come back through, a stock investment or a real estate investment or a job promotion or whatever it may be. Whereas these people living at home, they're living at home, they're getting free rent, they're even getting free car insurance, using their parents' cars, mom's cooking for them, doing their laundry, doing all this stuff.
Crazy.
And I'm sorry, but that's probably number one for me. And when I see kids nowadays who graduate from college, they're 22, 23 years old, and they move back in with their parents, I still get giddy, not for the children, but for the parents, for not telling their children, hey, sonny, daughter, you need to get out, go move to New York City, go move to San Francisco or whatever, get a job in Silicon Valley or Wall Street, or just figure it out. You're young, you're healthy, you're energetic, figure it out, live life, explore. I feel like that's a better education in your 20s than just moving back in with mom and dad.
Yeah, but a lot of these parents, man, they love it. Oh, they're back. Oh, they want to carry on in perpetuity this
they're hurting their kid. They're hurting their children.
Notion of they're still my baby. You still have a place here. It's like, listen, go out there, jump into a wood chipper, see what happens. It's weird, man, because you look at these guys that are 20 somethings or early 30s, and they still don't know who they are, still don't know what they're going to do. Man, I had 2 flipping kids, by the time I was 27. And we were starting businesses, had multiple businesses. Both my daughters, by the time they were 21, had multiple businesses. My oldest daughter, when she was, I think, 22, during tax season, she sent out 1,000 1099s for her employees. And my youngest daughter started Girls Just Want to Have Guns, and it turned into a massive website. She's all over the news and speaking engagements at CPAC. Freaking 18 years old, making 6 figures. And then you got these dipstick, absolute shame of what it means to be a man, that they can't figure life out. And I'm telling you, parents, you need to be tough on your kids. You need to make them earn their way. You need to let them know that there's the door. And as soon as, they clear high school or trade school or undergrad, then they're freaking out. They're out, And, eagles stir up their nest to get their little eaglets to fly. And what's weird in West Texas, with the brown eagles in particular, they have these big-ass nests that are made of mesquite thorns that are real sticky. They got these big, 2 to 3 inch spines. And so they'll pick up the cotton, other kind of debris, and they'll line the nest, make it nice and comfy. But when that eaglet gets a little too big for the nest, the mother eagle starts stripping the nest of all the cotton, all the comfort, and all of a sudden, boom, the spikes come out. And if the eaglets don't learn, to get out after that, when she makes it very uncomfortable, she'll frickin' kick them out of the nest. They'll nearly plummet to their death. She'll pick them up again, take them to the nest, and do it all over until that little eaglet learns how to fly. That is proper parenting. We ought to do a book, Parenting Lessons from a Brown Eagle. Strip the nest, get out. You're going to change the world. You're going to get out there. You're going to make stuff happen. You're going to fail. Great. You're going to learn, big time from your failures. And but this whole pampering, helicopter parenting. Oh, little Jimmy's going to ride his bike. Let's put helmets and elbow pads and knee pads. Man, when we rode bikes back in my day, we would frickin' go out there nearly naked, wearing like these new cutoff shorts, Converse Chuck Taylor tennis shoes, no shirt, no problem. We'd jump ramps without helmets. We'd break our teeth, break our arms, break our legs, and that's just the way it was. And our parents weren't, running and hovering around us, putting helmets on us and bacterial gel and, kissing our boo-boos. None of that happened, man. None of it. And we built businesses and we built the United States, and we're in the asset column. We haven't cost this nation a flippin' penny. And that's what it used to be. If you were on the government dole back in my day, my dad's World War II and stuff.
It was embarrassing.
Oh,
you would be embarrassed.
Man, if you were on it, you got off real quick. And we had this one uncle who, I think he sprained his ankle, and he milked that forever. And everybody in my family just thought he's a shady piece of crap.
And one of the things that's amazed me is how many kids these days don't want driver's licenses. I mean, it blew my mind whenever I heard about, kids waiting until they were 18, 19, 20 years old to get a driver's license. Because I was like, I remember my 16th birthday waving goodbye to my mom as I drove out of the driveway. I think I drove 100 miles that day around Austin.
Same.
Hit about 110, 120 on the down the freeway that wasn't really there. But I wanted to ask you about one of your books I saw on your website, the If Masculinity is Toxic, Call Jesus Radioactive.
Right.
Because I feel like we've gotten to the point in society where it's like Jesus has been made out to be this like nice, calm guy who everybody loved and didn't really rock the boat. But when you read it, I mean, he's actually not at all that. He's much more of a revolutionary than people tend to like to call him. But can you talk a little bit about that book?
Yeah, I'd love to. It was a #1 bestseller also. So in the book Pussification, I just slid a chapter in. That one was Pussification is more of a general market, the unwashed masses. Being a Christian, I was like, I'll slip a little stuff, Doug style, in there about my take on the rebel from Galilee. And so I did this chapter. It said, "Dear Christian, you might be a pussy, but Jesus isn't." And I threw that in there as an aside. And man, that one chapter, it got more unsolicited praise, feedback than all the other incredible chapters that are in the book Pussification. So anyway, my publisher said, "Man, this thing deserves fleshing out." So we launched If Masculinity's Toxic, Called Jesus Radioactive. And for those who haven't read it, it's an examination of the masculine qualities that Christ exhibited in the book of Matthew. And like you said, today it's like, oh, Jesus, he's just this sweet, cuddly, 7-pound, 13-ounce baby. And we all love him. And he's kind of like, over-medicated Oprah Winfrey, but he looks like Mr. Rogers, and he wears a cardigan, and he has nary a peep, bad to say about anybody. That's complete and utter, as the Latin would say, stercor tori, or as the Greek would say, scubalon, or as the Texans would say, bullshit. If you take the Bible straight, like I do my whiskey, and you just read what Christ said and what he did, and you see the reaction of the people, both good and bad, you can tell that the guy was a rabble rouser. He called a woman a dog one time. Can you imagine if during one of my talks and stuff, I called some immigrant chick, a dog? Oh my gosh. So this lady comes up to him, a Syrophoenician woman. Her daughter's acting like Miley virus, and she wants Jesus to cast the devil out of her. And Jesus said, "I don't give what's holy to dogs." And if you were full of lies, hype, and spin, if you're like a stupid politician, or you're a bad priest, part of the Sanhedrin, whoever, if you were spewing nonsense and if you were deceiving people, he'd get up in your grill. And he'd rebuke you. He'd rebuke you in private. He'd rebuke you in public. He'd shame you in front of a group of a big crowd. If you're having dinner with him, don't say something dumb. Don't say something that's that's specious do, because he's going to call you out on it. And I believe, if I remember the movie The Passion of the Christ correct, I believe they killed him ultimately for everything that he said and did. People don't go around killing nice people who tell moralistic stories, some kind of recondite Garrison Keillor who wears Birkenstocks. They're not looking to murder somebody like that. And as soon as Christ opened his mouth on his first sermon, according to Dr. Luke's take of the gospel, they tried to throw him off a cliff. And so, again, when people paint Jesus like some frickin' feminine hygiene bearded woman, they're using the wrong brush. Matter of fact, I did a whole short film on how Christ and his disciples have been portrayed in painting from like the pre-Raphaelites through today. And it just looks like I said, a bearded woman. Kind of looks like Jared Leto, with Courtney Cox's hairdo or something like that. These guys were tough, rough carpenters. His disciples were fishermen. And I've been a fisherman and a hunter all my life. Those guys were not pussies. And this is not sport fishing. This is cast net, gill net type fishing. And it's more along the lines of the deadliest catch instead of some little seminary soft boys, indoor boys with man tits. That's not that's not Christ and his crew. And again, don't believe me. Just do a cursory glance of what's actually written in the verbum Dei.
Good to know. A couple of things. So first off, I talked earlier about when I used to be a loser and the qualities that I had and what you mentioned. I used to be like that because that's if you go to these modern day colleges, that's how they somewhat mold you to be. You have to be. In fact, I used to look at, we had like a young conservative club in college or like a young Republican club. And I used to look at those guys. It wasn't a very big club. And the guys who were there, I used to look at them as, just label them as either racists or just crazy, loud, confident people. And then now I look back and I'm like, those guys were actually very smart. And yeah, they were confident. It's not a bad thing to be confident. And I just was somewhat brainwashed into having a certain personality and talking about being nice. I had a reputation. I mean, I don't know. Adam would know this better than me because I was his intern during this time period. But I would be told all the time, especially by women, oh, you're so nice. You're such a nice guy. And let's just say I was never rewarded for that niceness. And it wasn't until I got into my mid-20s when I struggled in dating, struggled in relationships, when I was like, this is actually a very unattractive quality for everybody around.
Right. That's awesome. Yeah, nobody grows up thinking, when I get big, I'm going to be known as a nice guy, but that's what, like in the church and like you said, in college, I mean, that's all they do. It's like, what would Jesus do? I don't know, pull out a whip, beat the shit out of a bunch of religious hucksters. He did that. He also, when everybody was wasted during the wedding feast of Canaan, he creates 120 gallons of even better wine from water. That's another thing he'd do. He'd call a woman a dog. That's another thing he'd do. He'd pronounce eternal curses on religious jackasses and tell them that their father's the devil. That's another thing he'd do. But now you don't hear any of that stuff in the church. And like you said, when you go into the universities, it's like, we're going to need your brains and your balls, please. And they just completely emasculate dudes and turn them into these, like I wrote in Pussification, these effeminate little crispins, that cannot provide. They cannot protect. They do not know how to hunt. They're not, if a hero is needed, not going to find it in them. And they blame shift. They embrace passivity. They don't lead courageously. And they still expect life to give them a big old kiss on the lips. Not going to happen.
Well, I love telling this story to people who are interested in it, which I think our listeners will be. I think you and Adam would be interested too. Adam might remember this from a few years ago. But I got fired once from a job during my nice days, and an email went out to the entire company. And I did very well at the company. I got stellar performance reviews. I got promoted, and I had this reputation of being the nice guy. And the first paragraph that was in the email that went out, it said, Naresh is a really nice guy. And what I learned was that in life, not just in the workplace, not just when it comes to dating or getting women or marriage or whatever it might be, if you're the nice guy, you will get trampled on. You will get taken advantage of. You will not get paid what you think you should get paid or what you should be getting paid. You will not get that promotion. You won't be invited to the special company parties, the happy hours, the fun stuff. And at the end of the day, you will be treated like complete shit and ultimately get fired or laid off, at least in a company sense. And I don't think if I didn't make that was essentially a turning point for me, because I said I need to rethink what it is, just if we want to use that term, my personal systemic beliefs of what it takes to succeed. And a lot of the problems where part of being nice is you're trying to please everybody around you. You're trying to be Mr. Nice Guy to everybody, almost like that teacher's pet. And that's just not going to cut it. And you're not going to attract people. You're not going to have too many friends. You're just going to constantly be taken advantage of. And you'll be looked down upon. I don't think if I stayed that course, I don't think I would have my businesses that I have today. I'd have my passive cash flow streams that I have today, because it takes a lot of guts, as what you would call real masculinity, to succeed in this area, in these areas. I don't think I would be married with a child and another child on the way today. There's a lot of things that I wouldn't have today had I continued to go that route. And I'm thankful that I did have instances in my life, heartbreaks in my life, that made me rethink and refocus what I needed to improve myself on, what qualities I needed to improve on.
Yeah, I think everybody, and that's an incredible story, man. And I'm going to use it if you don't mind.
Yes, please.
Yeah, no, it's freaking gold, because again, everything that you just talked about escaping from, that's what the powers that be in coming from the liberal madrasa, that's what they're trying to turn dudes into. And here's the reason why I believe that the left hates masculinity, hates seeing you morph into who God has called you to be and who nature has hardwired you to be, is because now you're hard to control, and they want to frickin' control people.
Yes, exactly.
Somebody who's tapped in to their inner warrior and wild men, you're not going to control us. You're not going to tell us put a damn mask on. You're not going to tell us shut down your church. Oh, okay. You're not. It ain't going to happen. Or if we're in those kind of states, we'll pick our shit up and we'll move to Texas or Florida. It's not going to, like, guys who are truly guys who are tapped into that inner wild man and that inner warrior. When they feel any kind of draconian overlord overreach, they have perfected the middle finger, and they understand that those are lesser magistrates to the Constitution and God Almighty, and that thank you for the suggestion, but we're not going to obey that. And they are a perennial threat to people like AOC, Biden, Pelosi, Harris, Trudeau, Macron, all the people that are currently in power. A dude who is a dude in the traditional sense of the word is somebody that they hate, because they're not going to become a step and fetch for their stupid ideas that have been tried and found wanting all around the world, every country where they've been parlayed. They're not going to toe the line. And that's why it's important, again, for parents to raise your boys to be righteously rebellious. Teach them to perfect the middle finger to people who try to control them. And and parents, you got one shot at this, man. You're either going to turn out a stooge, or you're going to turn out somebody who's in the asset column in life, who, just like I said, they don't cost anybody a penny, and they overwhelmingly add to the betterment of mankind. But those things don't just happen by chance or fate or luck. You got to raise your kids on purpose. And we're in a flipping culture war. And parents, if you can't see that, Stevie Wonder can see what's going on right now. And parents, you need to act accordingly and raise your son or a daughter like a righteous, holy warrior in the midst of this intergalactic shitstorm that is currently strapped on America's collective face.
Two things. You said you're anti-public school. We've talked on this show in depth about homeschooling. Did you end up sending your kids to private school, or did you homeschool?
So we did everything. So private, and then public, and then homeschool. And we did it before it was cool. We were living in Miami at that time, and schools are 180% overcrowded. And my oldest daughter and youngest daughter's like, Dad, why do you hate me? Why are you sending me to these places? And so we yanked them out. What's awesome about the homeschooling? So we did it with Florida Virtual School. So no religious affiliation, just basically taught, reading, writing, arithmetic. America doesn't suck. Constitution's great. Bill of Rights, genius. Declaration of Independence, memorize it. And so when they were going to public school, they would finish their work like in 2 or 3 hours. And then they'd be off surfing or learning jujitsu or traveling the world with us. It's freaking great. As long as you can get online, you crunch it. And when they're like 11, 12, 13 years old, they're learning Latin, macroeconomics, calculus. They're not waiting for a bunch of dunderheads to shut the front door so the class can be quiet so the teacher can teach. And that's what school is now. It's a prison, folks. Generally speaking, kids are out of control. You can't whip their ass. We got our asses whooped. We got out of line, and the principals would do it, and he'd hit us with a bat that's about 42, 46 inches long. And can't do that now. You got incredible, just disruption, sexuality, immorality going on in the hallways. Kids that want to learn just waiting for this, this Thunderdome to settle down so the teacher can instruct. Screw that noise. Then you throw in the wokeism, critical race theory, America sucks, all white people are the devil. I mean, it's like, why would any kind of parent put their kid into that kind of place for 8 hours? And here, if parents are thinking, well, you're being a little hard, aren't you? Well, just remember, if you allow Caesar to educate your children, don't be shocked when they turn out to be Romans.
Yeah. Wow. Well, why did you move out? You moved from Florida to Austin, which both states, Florida and Texas, right now are the two hottest states in the country. Everyone wants to move to those two states. Why the move?
Yeah, so I lived in Miami for 20 years, love South Florida. Going back next month to do a cigar show and an art show at Mar-a-Lago, Trump's beautiful home now. And so I love South Florida, big fisherman, no place like it. It's world's greatest fishing hotspot. However, my daughter had our first grandbaby, and they were living in the Austin area. And my wife's like, I'm not going to have grandkids that I don't see that often. So she put up with my shit for like 20 plus years. I figure, okay, let's move to Texas. So what a great place. I come back to the motherland. It's where I was born and raised. And I'm telling you what, man, those are two epic states. I can't imagine living in Oregon. I can't imagine living in Washington. I can't imagine DC. I can't imagine New York City. Oh, do you have the mark of the beast? If you don't have the mark of the beast, you can't have a hamburger. Crime run amok. Brother, I'm sitting here right now wearing my gun. I walk around with my gun all the time. I go to cafes. I go to diners, walking around with my gun on. Nobody cares. All my friends do it. It's again, it's this thing called.
And there's like no crime too in these areas. Everyone's walking around with guns, and you don't see buildings burning down or crime or stabbings. I left one of those hellholes, Baltimore, Maryland. I was there for nearly 3 years.
Yeah, look what Mosley's done to that place.
And this was way before the pandemic. I found freedom in Florida. And
what part of Florida do you live?
I live in Tampa Bay. And as you know, Adam lives in Austin. So we're both in nice states, or he lives just outside of Austin. But I want to end the interview and this conversation. It's been a great conversation. Love what you have to say, and I love that you're just not afraid of saying shit. A lot of people, they're going to listen to this and they're going to be offended, right? And I'm sure you get hate mail all the time.
Well, what I do, Naresh, is when I get hate mail, and if I've got some haters listening right now, and you've got a problem with me, send all that email to Doug@idon'tgiveashit.com.
Let's repeat that. Let's repeat that one more time.
Right. Yeah, if they missed it, it's Doug at idon'tgiveashit.com.
Well, look, the reason why I want to bring it up is because people who get offended, they are the problem. The person who's saying the stuff, they're not the problem. The person who is getting offended, there's something going off in that mind that is making themselves get offended. Look, I hear things all the time that I don't agree with, that I don't like, but I don't get it. I don't feel the need to get so worked up about it that I just need to then go in front of my face. We talked about social media before.
Yeah.
I go on my Twitter or my Facebook and I start ranting, and then I call my mom, I call my wife, I do all these things.
You go to a restaurant, the asparagus is bad, so you do a Yelp 18-page interview about how their asparagus sucks or something.
Exactly. That's another good example. I have friends, they have a bad asparagus, and it completely ruins the week for them, and they can't stop talking about the asparagus. And my philosophy is, look, it's just food. You
Right.
Just, the next meal is going to be better. All right. Like, this is not the end of the world by any means.
The salmon sucks. If the salmon sucks, don't order it twice, you know?
Exactly. And when it comes
but that's part of the pussification of the United States, man. It's, everybody's a tattletale. If somebody offends you, start a hashtag movement instead of just, that's life in the big city, man. Take punches. I get this anonymous blogger was going off on me a couple years ago, and they said if Bill O'Reilly and Ann Coulter and Chuck Norris somehow were able to create a baby with the writing style that has all the subtlety of a sledgehammer and had the appeal of a fetid lump of dog shit, that would be Doug Giles. And you know what I did, man? I put that on several of my books. When most people's like, Doug Giles is a winsome, creative author. He's prescient. He's poignant. He's purposeful. It's like, nah, Doug has a writing style of a sledgehammer and the appeal of a fetid lump of dog shit. And that's, to me, that's awesome, man. You can't write that good of stuff. Your enemies can. And so again, Christ was like, hey, bless and curse not. Just roll with it. Keep going.
Well, yeah, going back to, look, I'm not a Bible carrying Christian conservative by any means, but I'll tell you what I am, and that is I am anti-woke. That is the sole reason why I just can't align with the modern day left, because it's gotten so ridiculous to the point that, look, I'm a person of color and I don't need somebody standing up for me. Look, my people, we have the highest median income in the country. Okay. And we're people of color, we're immigrants. We've only been here for a few decades. That is not because of systemic racism. It is not because white people hate us. It's absolutely not. And we keep coming to this country in droves legally. We have skills to offer that many people in this country just aren't interested in when it comes to STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, etc. Even when it comes to entrepreneurship.
Right.
We're ready to put our heads down and to live that.
So you're saying that the white cracker hasn't been able to keep you down?
No, as far as I'm concerned, there is no white cracker. There just isn't. I don't know where it came from.
Everybody's like, how come the Indians, or Pakistanis, are you Indian, Pakistani?
Indian.
Yes.
Indian.
How come the Indians are doing so well? Well, they didn't get an undergraduate degree in white musicology. That's the reason why, you dumbass. Unbelievable,
And there are many people
Here's the cool thing about it is think of as men and woke women and all these people that are taking notes when Biden speaks, as they assimilate and they get bigger, it's just going to be wide open fields for us from a business standpoint, because they will not be able to compete with somebody who's sharp, solid, and smart, who's embracing traditional values, who's a provider, protector, hunter, and hero. Man, the market's going to be wide open. It's going to be a good day for somebody who's been paying attention in life.
Yeah, and once again, talking about anti-wokeism. And if you are listening to this and you're in a business setting or just in a social setting and you are offended at something, you find yourself in a situation where you get offended, and the listeners can't see this, but Doug just made a sad face because you got offended. Okay, now he's wiping his eyes.
Yes.
Just think about just think about, okay, why am I offended? What is so, how come the other people around me aren't offended? Why am I offended? Or how come somebody else who looks like me isn't offended? Why am I the one getting offended? I think the worst thing, the problem that we have in this country now is we've boxed ourselves into a tribe, and somebody gets offended, and instead of opening up that line of communication and having a discussion about what they found offensive, it's now, you're a terrible person, block. You're blocked on Facebook, you're unfriended, you're unfollowed, you're not going to be my friend. And even family members, I have family members who unfriended me on social media.
Awesome, man.
Because,
Congratulations.
yeah, I was honored. I was like, wow, this is great.
Good to know.
And these were not family members who, let's just say, you wouldn't want your children to grow up to become them. That's the nicest way to put it. They're not role models for anybody, really. So yeah, I took a huge.
Yeah. I think the whole thing with offense, because I'm white, so I get it. I'm the Antichrist. I'm a Christian, so again, evil according to the culture, and I'm a dude, which is really persona non grata in all these woke enclaves. As being a Texas Paul Rube, growing up, when people queue up to do comedy about rednecks or Texans or stuff like that, I don't get offended. It's like, what's got 3 teeth and IQ of 50? It's like, what? Front row of George Strait concert. I don't sit there and, it's like, I'm so offended. And then pack my stuff and walk out of the comedy store. That's freaking funny. I don't care who.
It's hilarious. And stand-up comedy in general has changed so much because of the cancel culture. And I love that finally we have an anti-woke Indian comedian who just came out with a YouTube. It's a short 20-minute YouTube documentary about how he wants to bring back Apu on The Simpsons. And just like me, I was never offended by Apu. I loved it when people at school would come to me and be like, hey, do you know Apu? And they would do their best Indian accent. Yes, it was a white guy, Hank Azaria, who played Apu. I thought that was freaking hilarious. I thought it was good for our culture. And quite frankly, it was a good conversation starter. It was a way to make friends with other people in my class. They weren't making fun of Apu because they hated Indian people or because they wanted me to go back to India. No, that's not what it was. But people take offense to every little, including my own people, will take offense to every little thing, and it goes beyond the actual issues. It's in their head. And I used to be one of these people, like I said. I used to be one of these people. I would get offended. I had low self-esteem. I wasn't good at certain subjects, so I wanted them canceled. I would call them racist. I would call them whatever. I went through that, and I'm glad that I matured out of it and became a man.
Awesome, brother.
And one last thing, you brought up people hating America. Look, there was a period where I did not like America simply because I didn't know America. America is a huge place. There are 50 states. There are islands that are a part of America. There are provinces, districts that are part of America. I just didn't know enough about it. And once I started exploring, I was like, hey, you know what? There are actually some places in America that I really like Florida, for example. But I have more respect for the people who say, you know what? I don't like America. I gave it a chance, and I'm just going to leave. I'm going to move out of here. I'm going to give up my citizenship. And we did an episode with Andrew Henderson in season 1. This is somebody who just got so fed up with America in around 2013. He sold a business. A lot of the proceeds of the sale were taken from him by the government, by Uncle Sam. There were a bunch of other reasons why he just gave up on the country. He left the country. He gave up his citizenship. He's visited over 100, I think it's like 120 countries and counting. He's lived all over the world now. He started a business that helps people leave America, give up their citizenship, pay less than, I think it was 2% in taxes. He's doing very well, and that's the type of guy that I do respect. Okay, you hate America, you're gonna act on it, you move on. He lives in Georgia, Europe now, so he's happy there. Good for him. Congratulations.
Whatever.
But these people who continue to stay here and say, I hate America, it's the worst country in the world, and therefore I'm going to find the most anti-American political candidates out there. I'm going to find the most anti-American history lessons and math lessons and et cetera, and ruining it for the other true Americans. Sorry, guys, you got to listen to that episode that we did with Andrew Henderson and maybe take some tips and just get the hell out.
Yeah, go to Mexico, go to Canada, something like that.
Yeah.
Hey, before we close, I've got to plug my new book. So
go for it.
It's number one. It went number one within 24 hours on Amazon. And bro, we hadn't when it was released, because they released it a week prior to what we thought was going to be the launch. It went number one in 24 hours in Middle Eastern literature.
Wow.
So it's Psalms of war, prayers that literally kick ass. And it's the imprecatory Psalms of David that churches ignore because they're pretty rough. They're pretty tough. God turned the enemy into snail slime, break their teeth, smash them with the rod of iron. I mean, that's biblical language. And you don't hear hardly any pastors or any choirs singing that tune anymore. So, bro, I don't know what happened, but it's outsold all the books I've ever written. It's outsold all the books my publisher has published, which is over 40 different authors. And I checked today, and it's at number 4, sadly to say, in Middle Eastern literature, going on its 4th month, and it's outsold the Quran.
Oh wow!
In the category, people are pissed, and when people get pissed, they start hoping, they start praying. And this is a prayer guide. I cover 28 different situations, altercations that David and Asaph and Moses found themselves in. And these were things where it's kind of like crap or get off the pot, Harry Carey type stuff. And the way that they prayed is flippin' amazing. So what I do is I introduce the imprecation, the psalm, and then I encourage the reader, pray this out loud. Don't just read it. Pray it like your butt's in the same sling that David's butt was in when he penned this 2,000 years ago. And brother, we're selling them. Churches are buying them. People are buying them in bulk, like men's group and stuff, and just handing them out like Tic Tacs. And it's pretty cool. So I appreciate you guys having me on the podcast.
Thank you, Doug Giles, creator and publisher of ClashDaily.com. Check that out, ClashDaily.com. Also, ClashChurch.com. He's a pastor there. ClashDaily.com, ClashChurch.com. Any other websites that you want to look at?
I don't know if you guys have seen it, but the listener also, if they dig art, go check out DougGiles.art. So that's got all of my artwork. It's got a short film that I did also that's pretty cool. And but if life imitates art, don't get sucky art and put it in your house.
DougGiles.art. So check that out. And of course, if you were offended by this interview, Doug at idon'tgiveashit.com. Doug at idon'tgiveashit.com. That email is literally going to go nowhere. I assume it's going to go to a pile of shit. But if you can reach out to us, hello at workfromhomeshow.com. Hello at workfromhomeshow.com. We'll forward that message over to Doug. Our website, workfromhomeshow.com, got on our mailing list. We're always giving away free goodies, free snippets to our loyal listeners. Follow us on social media. I know we said that we hate social media here, but it's an important part of marketing and promotion. And we actually love social media because of the hate. I love it because of the hate. I'm able to handle it. Not everyone's able to handle it. And follow us on, like I said, social media. Subscribe to us on iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher. Leave us a review on whatever podcasting platform you use. And until next week, keep on working from home.